Hello, my name is Hannah Riley, and this is my concert video report. I went to the Don Giovanni, Mozart's Don Giovanni it was a rock opera. It was on October 6th. It was at 7:30 p.m. And so one thing about this, honestly, I did not know what to expect walking in, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And so at the beginning, it kind of starts off very strong and like ready for conflict almost. As I talk more about the story, this will make sense. But it continues on to be kind of very mysterious, and then a pattern of beats starts, and it's very repetitive, but it varies in dynamics. Like it'll get really loud at one part and then quiet at another, but the same pattern repeats over and over. So kind of a backstory is there's a guy named Leporello, I think is how you pronounce it. He comes out, starts to sing about how he doesn't want to be Don Giovanni's servant anymore and stuff. And then there's a girl and Giovanni. They had a fling, and she was trying to escape from him, and Giovanni ends up killing her father, and as he comes to protect her. And so then as this happens, the dynamic of the music increases tremendously as a major crescendo, and the emotion just goes from like being almost kind of humorous at the beginning, because the lyrics were kind of humorous whenever Leporello was talking about how he didn't want to be Don Giovanni's servant anymore. And then as Anna's father gets killed, then the music and the emotion just become very intense and like almost kind of scary and like frightening, because you're like, what's gonna happen next? So whenever the father is like actually killed, and it's not like her getting upset about it and stuff, it starts like very slow, almost like symbolically showing how the father is slowly dying after he was stabbed, and it gets like really quiet and emotionally sad, and it's just the same simple sad pattern that repeats over and over in the background. And I noticed that the tempo always seems to change with the actor's emotions, and how it like fluctuates just as much as their emotion, as they find different things that happen throughout and encounter different events. So towards the middle, the entire opera was about how Don Giovanni basically was trying to get as many girls as he could. And so towards the middle, it kind of goes more into his backstory as to how he had so many females that he's been with from all different countries and things like that. And as he kind of goes on about all his little flings, it starts to get the music in the background, the tempo starts to become more chaotic, which I felt like kind of was very symbolic towards his like love life, I guess you could say, because like his love life was all over the place, so the music was just all over the place. There was multiple instruments playing back and forth, it was loud, the dynamic was big, there was crescendos everywhere, it was great. So then once that's kind of past, the emotion kind of changes as the females come in and they're wanting Giovanni back and things like that. It kind of changes from chaotic to like they're desperate for him and they're like flirty, and the tempo starts to get kind of slower, and the dynamic kind of gets, I don't want to say quiet, it has like a decrescendo, but like it's almost in the middle, where the females are kind of like trying to seduce Giovanni and like getting back. And so then as it like fluctuates depending on maybe what they say, kind of their actions, the dynamic will get a little louder and then quieten down, a little louder and quieten down. And then as soon as Giovanni comes back to the on stage and talks about all his females again, it starts to get frantic and chaotic, and all these instruments gradually join in, the dynamic increases, it's louder, the tempo starts to quicken, and it gets very chaotic. I feel like that's the best way to explain it. So then towards the end, all of Giovanni's little flings, his females, find out this massive list of everybody he's been with. They want revenge. Anna, the girl, he killed her father. Giovanni killed her father, so she's wanting revenge. And so then they're starting to get kind of like cocky little attitudes, like, this is what I'm going to do. And so then Giovanni throws like this big party at his bar to get girls drunk and take advantage of them. And as this is happening, the music starts to increase. And I feel like it's not as chaotic, but it's more like, I don't even know how to describe it, because it gets louder and almost like gives, yes, I'm the man, like, this is who I am, kind of demanding. It's very, the emotion of it's very like, here I am, look at me. And so as more of the females start to come to the party, the music begins to get even louder and has a crescendo. The dynamic changes because the more people that come on stage, the more people that sing, it makes the emotions more intense because all these females are feeling all these different things. So then it's just like so much going on at once. And then the tempo begins to quicken because everybody's like frantically just like pouring their emotions out to each other. And then at the very end, Giovanni kind of gets what he asked for and has to pay for everything. And then the music like all of a sudden changes to like being very mysterious and scary. And this is when Giovanni's basically getting sent to hell, and the dynamic consistently changes from going back and forth from a decrescendo to a crescendo. And it's the same pattern of beats repeated constantly to make it even like more of an airy mood, kind of like when you're going into a haunted house, like they play the same thing over and over and over again. It's just sometimes like it'll get louder, then it'll get quiet, depending on kind of where you are. And that's like the exact same thing that was happening here. So throughout this opera, I know for sure that 2 keyboards played and an electric guitar. From where I was sitting and the props that they had, it was very difficult to see what exactly the instruments that were playing because there was like a wall set up. I know that the keyboards were changing a lot of their settings. It seemed like they were incorporating a lot more instrument sounds to in order to like make it seem like there was more people playing. I also noticed that the conductor was playing. He would conduct some parts of it whenever keyboards weren't being played because there's 2 of them, and then other times he would be playing along with them. I feel like what was new to me about watching this concert was that everything was being sung, and I wasn't expecting that. And it took a second for me to kind of like start following the story, and I felt like it was very difficult for me to understand what the actors were singing because it was an opera. And so I'm glad that they had like the little captions at the top in order for me to follow along, so then I actually kind of had a better idea of the story that was going on. I also learned from this opera that operas depict a lot of things from society that like people do, but like people just kind of ignore it. I feel like this one kind of showed me not to rely or throw yourself at men type of deal. That's kind of what I was gathering from this, like, don't let men take advantage of you. One thing that surprised me though about this opera was that it was very dirty. I was not expecting for all of the sexual comments and like little promiscuous lyrics that were sang during the opera, but they were funny. They made the mood a little lighter in some points. Overall, I feel like I really enjoyed the music. It was very different than anything I have ever watched and definitely kept me on my toes. And the story was constantly back and forth, and the music made it 10 times more intense and 10 times better. And one thing I would like to know more about would be like kind of how the storyline was created. I felt like it was a very complicated and all over the place storyline, so I would like to know kind of where that story came from. Overall, I really enjoyed going to the concert and getting to experience it here at the university for the first time. Thank you.